Welcome to the 2022 AGAPE Awards for the National Philoptochos of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America. The 2022 AGAPE Award recipient for the Direct Archdiocesan District is the Archangel Michael Philoptochos in Port Washington, New York. The pandemic did not hamper the commitment of the Archangel Michael Philoptochos to assist those in need and continue their many philanthropic projects to benefit worthwhile charities and community events. However, there had been an idea for a new ministry that was in discussion for many years, and it was the loneliness and isolation resulting from the pandemic which exposed the urgency to create a new outreach program for the shut-ins of their parish. This is how the Philoptochos Cares Ministry began. Some of their activities are coordinating transportation to church, arranging in-home pastoral visitations, providing companionship through personal visits, making phone calls, sending cards, providing respite for caregivers, grocery shopping, and even offering educational sessions on safety tips for seniors, financial planning, asset and estate tax protection, computer scams, and more. At first, people were reluctant to share just how much help they needed, or they did not want to be a burden to the parish. Slowly, the attitudes began to change, and people were realizing the benefits of the Philoptochos Cares Ministry, and it is now an integral part of the parish. It has also given parishioners new opportunities to serve as volunteers and ensure that these young at heart parishioners can still meaningfully participate in community activities, enjoy fellowship, and a better quality of life. This chapter remains increasingly focused on the needs of the elderly and how they can remain engaged and connected to their parish, imparting God's love to them through the Philoptochos Cares Ministry. They have also been active with several literacy drives, supporting children in disadvantaged communities, as well as veterans, coordinating a food pantry drive, providing meals for first responders at the local hospital, and supporting the Blessings in a Backpack program. They have also established their first Philoptochos scholarship, and they host cultural events online and in person through the Philoptochos Cooking Club. Congratulations to the Archangel Michael Philoptochos in Port Washington, New York. The 2022 AGAPE Award recipient for the Metropolis of Boston is the Patris Philoptochos chapter from the Annunciation of the Virgin Mary Church in Woburn, Massachusetts. The Patris Philoptochos chapter recognized that these past 2 years have been very difficult, but it did not stop them from helping those in need and fulfilling their philanthropic commitments. At a time when outreach seemed limited, they were able to expand their efforts by increasing their contact with parishioners through regular phone calls. A simple task like grocery shopping became difficult for the elderly during the pandemic, so the Philoptochos members stepped in, picked up shopping lists and money left on the doorstep, and they delivered the groceries back to their front door. They had previously served meals for the Dwelling Place Soup Kitchen, but COVID changed that too. Instead of cooking on-site, they prepared and packaged meals at the church, complete with masks and social distancing, and they served the food outside to an even larger group as the audience had virtually doubled. Though this started as a Philoptochos project, it has generated great interest and has truly become a community event. The Malcolm White School has been a favorite charity of the Patris chapter, and they have adopted many low-income families over the years. The winter months brought an even greater need as several students were without warm coats, which Philoptochos most generously provided. They also provided educational supplies and athletic equipment. The Patris Philoptochos chapter also supported a 16-year-old girl from Greece who was in Boston for major medical surgery. They provided financial assistance, translation services, and most especially comfort and love to the family. Because they were not able to hold any of their traditional fundraising events, they sent out a donation request through the mail, which was very successful and provided for the necessary funds to support so many worthwhile causes. And even though the pandemic is lessening, the commitment of the Patris Philoptochos chapter to identify new and innovative ways for helping those in need is stronger than ever. Congratulations to the Patris Philoptochos chapter from the Annunciation of the Virgin Mary Church in Woburn, Massachusetts. The 2022 AGAPE Award recipient for the Metropolis of Denver is the Philoptochos Society of St. John in Omaha, Nebraska. The Philoptochos members in Omaha developed creative ways to engage in all their ministries during COVID. Through enhanced communication, they kept in regular contact with their elderly members, which was especially important so they would feel connected to the good works of their chapter. They also implemented small group events which allowed for socially distant activities. Even though people could not gather for their annual Palm Sunday dinner, parishioners generously sent in donations which were shared with the local food bank. For their Thanksgiving dinner fundraiser, they offered a drive-through event for those in need to pick up a delicious meal with all the traditional fixings, or they delivered food baskets for the homebound. Christmas dinner was also provided so that no family would go hungry on this beautiful holiday. Following strict safety protocols, the Philoptochos members gathered to prepare Easter bread and koulrakia to deliver to the elderly and shut-ins. Remembering these dedicated stewards, especially over the holidays, brought them such joy during a time of painful physical separation. Every Veterans Day, the St. John Philoptochos provided hygiene products for homeless veterans, but with the pandemic, they expanded their support to include canned food and cleaning supplies for veterans who are transitioning to permanent housing. Over 700 pounds of items were donated in March for this initiative. Their food pantry expanded to not only assist the homeless in their city, but also 2 elementary schools which were in need of items for low-income families. They also conducted a special drive to collect school supplies, and for those cold Omaha winters, the chapter also coordinated a winter warmth drive, supplying coats, hats, scarves, and other clothing needs for students. While COVID brought many challenges, it also brought out the very best in their efforts, which in turn inspired growth in their chapter, which started with just 15 members and is now up to 62, including 9 men, all committed to philanthropy, fellowship, and faith in action. Congratulations to the Philoptochos Society of St. John in Omaha, Nebraska. The 2022 AGAPE Award recipient for the Metropolis of Atlanta is the St. Elpis chapter from St. Demetrius Church in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The St. Elpis Philoptochos chapter understands that getting women to help requires discovering their talents and interests, inviting them, training them, and making sure they feel welcomed and respected for their efforts. During the pandemic, Philoptochos continued their good works, but like other organizations, they had to get creative with their fundraising and community service. Phone calls to parishioners were important in those early weeks of COVID to keep people feeling connected. And even though visitations to nursing homes were not permitted, they continued to call, send cards and flowers, and dropped off small gift baskets for the elderly. And they even held a parking lot party to honor a member on her 102nd birthday. Reaching further into the civic community, Philoptochos made a difference through donations to Covenant House, the Full Gospel Church, and to Title I schools where the children and their families have great need. They also cooked and distributed meals to families whose lives were greatly disrupted by the pandemic, and provided food baskets and grocery store gift cards to others. As a show of love and gratitude, Philoptochos partnered with a local Greek restaurant and provided lunch for 100 healthcare workers at a hospital near the church. And even without opportunities for interaction, volunteers continued to knit and crochet blankets for babies and veterans, with over 135 of them donated during the pandemic. They also continued their tradition of sending 24 care boxes to their college students in the fall and spring. These packages included a small religious item, a letter from their parish priest, snacks, hygiene and school items, all packed with love and support of the Philoptochos members. Getting to know people better amid separation and social distancing also helped Philoptochos become more aware and sensitive to the needs of the parishioners, many of whom they did not realize were struggling because of illness or loss of employment. Philoptochos was ready and willing to step in and bring the light of Christ into their lives and give them hope. Congratulations to the St. Elpis Philoptochos chapter from St. Demetrius Church in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The 2022 AGAPE Award recipient for the Metropolis of Detroit is the Annunciation Philoptochos in Memphis, Tennessee. At the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a significant sense of loss and confusion. While initially they looked inwardly as to what they were individually missing, they soon realized that this was also an opportunity to grow closer to God. During the first Pascha celebrated online, they porch-delivered luminaries across the city to demonstrate their love for each other and Christ. This set the tone for their future efforts to focus on the needs of others. They raised funds to provide hand-washing stations for the homeless, which were installed throughout the city. Through a partnership with the Sweet Cheeks Diaper Ministry, they provided diapers and wipes for mothers in need across the larger Memphis community. The parish council agreed to hold a blood drive, and this gave people the opportunity to give of themselves to help those who were sick and in need of blood transfusions. They also approached the parish council and received approval to build the St. Basil Perishable Food Pantry outside the front gate of the church property. This turned into a true community project that included stewards of all ages, along with the HEPA and Goya working side by side with Philoptochos. The pantry is filled every week, and this has been a blessing for the homeless and those without regular access to food. Other efforts of the Annunciation Philoptochos included special drives to collect school supplies, socks, and gloves for local schools and shelters. Their ongoing partnership with More Than a Meal transitioned from preparing hot meals at their church kitchen to providing sack lunches and snacks to go. Looking back on the pandemic experience, the Annunciation Philoptochos recognize that they are stronger together, both as a church community, but also in the larger civic community. Moving forward, they will continue to assist with more than just donations, but a hands-on approach to the challenges that people face. The pandemic allowed them to support missions closer to their own, extending their circle of sisterhood and friendship and love to all that they serve. Congratulations to the Annunciation Philoptochos in Memphis, Tennessee. The 2022 AGAPE Award recipient for the Metropolis of Pittsburgh is the All Saints Philoptochos from Weirton, West Virginia. The Philoptochos chapter from the All Saints Church in Weirton, West Virginia, has worked together to fulfill the will of the Lord through their service to the church, community, nation, and throughout the world. Though the pandemic presented its challenges, it also provided opportunities for greater creativity when it came to fundraising events and outreach opportunities. These included bake sales, which raised over $25,000 during the past 2 years. These funds provided food, clothing, and basic necessities to civic and charitable organizations. Their partnership with the Community Bread Basket led to a donation that provided 2,200 pounds of food and 20,000 meals for those in need. Funds raised by Philoptochos have also been designated for the Parish Benevolent Fund, which has paid for medical expenses, food gift cards, and even to provide assistance for funerals. They have also generously supported community organizations by donating funds to the Weirton Christian Center for the purchase of boxed lunches, school supplies for children, blankets, pillows, crafts, and their community garden. Their support of the Salvation Army includes filling their food locker with meat and poultry items, as well as serving as volunteer bell ringers during the Christmas season. The Salvation Army even honored their chapter as a benefactor at their recent appreciation luncheon. The All Saints Philoptochos also funded field trips for girls at Brook Place, a residential home for young girls facing abusive home environments. The Philoptochos chapter is committed to expanding their philanthropic efforts, especially knowing that 60% of the students in this area qualify for free lunch. They will also focus on programs like advocacy for children, protection and housing for women and families in abusive environments, counseling for women, addressing health issues, and providing support for individuals with mental health problems. The All Saints Philoptochos describe themselves as working hard, having fun, praying together, and that they truly love one another. Glory to God. Congratulations to the All Saints Philoptochos in Weirton, West Virginia. The 2022 AGAPE Award recipient for the Metropolis of San Francisco is the St. Demetrius Philoptochos in Seattle, Washington. The St. Demetrius Philoptochos approached the pandemic through the eyes of what they could do and not what they couldn't do. They continued their normal outreach programs while adhering to enhanced safety measures, all while supporting the many Metropolis and National Philoptochos initiatives. Their focus was to encourage and empower the next generation of women with the theme, "Come Join Us," by increasing their presence in the community as a giving organization, to broaden member participation and engagement, and to empower their Philoptochos sisters to bring forth and implement new ideas. Their members delivered ayasmo to parishioners who could not attend church. Within 2 hours of sending an email asking for volunteers, they had 22 people eagerly sign up. They also started a meal train ministry to take food to those in their community who needed help. And they prepared kits to teach people how to make koliva, complete with ingredients and written and video instructions. The St. Demetrius Philoptochos also designated $10,000 to fund special projects brought to them by parishioners, such as purchasing gift cards distributed to low-income families in an inner-city school, funds to supplement daycare expenses for struggling families, the purchasing of car seats for families who could not afford them, and preparing monthly breakfast for residents at a homeless shelter. They even paid for the purchase of yarn for women to make baby blankets, which are given to families when they bring their new child to church for their 40-day blessing. All the projects that were identified were brought forth and implemented by Philoptochos members at the grassroots level as a means of empowering them in their commitment to this ministry. The chapter membership had been dropping, with 120 members at the onset of the pandemic. They worked hard, they listened, they shared their good works, improved their communication, and membership is now approaching 200 members. This dynamic chapter is determined to keep the momentum going through 3 components: invite, embrace, and involve. Congratulations to the St. Demetrius Philoptochos in Seattle, Washington. The 2022 AGAPE Award recipient for the Metropolis of Chicago is the St. John the Baptist Philoptochos in Des Plaines, Illinois. The pandemic had a wide spectrum of effects on the parish, the chapter, their families, and throughout the world. Everyone experienced greater distance from one another, but the Philoptochos members overcame fear and obstacles in order to find practical ways to assist others. What more important time would there be to do something for love of others and for God's glory than this? They found the more they did, the more they were inspired to step forward and help. 21st century communication drew them together and helped them grow through regular emails, Zoom meetings, online fundraising, and sharing their good works on social media. One of their first efforts was parishioner well-being phone calls in those early days of the pandemic, and this was no small task as they have over 750 steward families and over 1,300 families on their mailing list. They also provided technical support to parishioners to teach them how to access live stream services. They provided meals for families and seniors, and they coordinated donated grocery deliveries. Philoptochos raised funds to help 2 families with special circumstances, the death of a spouse and a grandmother raising her grandchildren. Between these 2 efforts, nearly $9,000 was raised. Then there were Thanksgiving meals, food drives, and other outreach efforts that impacted thousands of people, and Philoptochos remains committed to continuing these initiatives because the needs are so great. They also delivered flowers to shut-ins on Valentine's Day. They used their creativity to make sure their parish feast day and the annual Vasilopita celebrations could be safely observed, and they reimagined their weekly Lenten potlucks and instead prepared to-go meals for the attendees. Financial support was also provided to the Orthodox Christian Prison Ministry, the Orthodox Christian Mission Center, International Orthodox Christian Charities, and many others. The rewards of these efforts brought forth growth and the flourishing of their chapter amidst adversity, and they were strengthened by their faith and emboldened by the knowledge that these efforts with God's blessings makes all things possible. Congratulations to the St. John the Baptist Philoptochos in Des Plaines, Illinois. The 2022 AGAPE Award recipient for the Metropolis of New Jersey is the Hagia Anna Philoptochos chapter at Saints Constantine and Helen Church in Annapolis, Maryland. For the past 2 years, the Hagia Anna Philoptochos chapter was able to continue supporting many of their outreach projects through partnerships, the encouragement of their parish priest, and through the generosity of their parishioners. In those early months of the pandemic, they worked with a Greek-owned diner to provide 800 meals to essential workers at 2 area hospitals. Realizing that COVID was not going away quickly, they responded to the special needs of the St. George Appalachia Project to aid the needy in Clay County, West Virginia. They had groceries delivered to the Lighthouse Shelter in Annapolis and later collected canned and packaged food and over $500 in gift cards during their Lenten appeal. Their popular Breakfast with Santa program for underprivileged school children changed into Christmas Across the County, where they raised $1,700 for the local food bank that supplies all the pantries in their area. Philoptochos continued to coordinate the holiday Toys for Tots drive, which was very successful, and also collected food and coats. They partnered with their Goya to provide cards for veterans at the VA hospital in Washington, D.C., and worked together on a successful Super Bowl Sunday event to benefit the International Orthodox Christian Charities. Philoptochos will also be providing a workshop to teach Goya members how to make prospero and to emphasize the importance of service to the church. They are supporting the St. Thomas Church in Kenya, providing for some of their basic needs for their liturgical services. The needs of people are great in all corners of the world, and Philoptochos is committed to making a difference. Their most rewarding moments were when they realized they succeeded despite the challenges. They look back on what they accomplished and feel good about overcoming the odds rather than being defeated by them. Congratulations to the Hagia Anna Philoptochos at Saints Constantine and Helen Church in Annapolis, Maryland. Congratulations to all our chapters, and keep spreading agape in all that you do for the glory of God.